Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, my dear students, in this English lesson. So what are we going to do in this lesson? Let's take a look. So we are still in Unit 3. Today we have conversation and about you. Let's take a look. But before we start the lesson, do you remember when I asked you to do the homework for the previous lesson? Let's take a look. What were you asked to do? You were asked to say 3 things you want to do in the future. Record an audio of you reading these 3 sentences. Now, let's take a look. We have these 3 sentences. Let's listen to the audio.
Number 1, I want to be a writer. Number 2, I want to be a football player. Number 3, I want to be a computer programmer.
Now, did you listen to the way the words want and to are pronounced? I want to be. I want to be. Now, let's take a look. What are we going to do in today's lesson? So we are done with all of these things. We'll start with conversation and then about you. So what are the objectives of today's lesson? By the end of this lesson, you will be able to find information about jobs from the conversation and differentiate between good jobs and bad jobs. Let's take a look at this picture first. What do you see here? How many people do you see in this picture? And what are the things that you can see in the bubble? We can see 2 boys in the picture. Where are these boys? Looks like the boys are in school. Looks like the boys are having a conversation. They are talking to each other. And they are talking about something here. You can see it in the bubble. So, what do you see inside these bubbles? In the first bubble, you can see pilots. And in the second bubble, you can see a boy and with some things here to indicate science or chemistry. Now, let's take a look at the conversation. Listen to the conversation, underline the words that you don't understand, and we will take a look at it. So here is the conversation between 2 boys, those boys, Ross and David. So what are they going to talk about? Is it related to the picture? Are they going to talk about jobs? Let's take a look. So here's the conversation. I underlined some words here. I want you to listen to the word, listen to the conversation, and listen to the context of the conversation here. Okay? Now listen carefully to the conversation because we have some things to do and we answer about this conversation. Let's take a look.
What does your father do, David?
My dad's a pilot. He flies those huge airplanes, you know, the ones that can carry about over 500 passengers.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I want to be a pilot just like my dad. What about your father? What does he do?
He's a writer. He writes for a sports magazine.
Do you want to be a writer too?
No, I want to be a chemistry teacher. I love doing experiments and I like teaching kids.
So now we heard the conversation between the boys, Ross and David. Now, let's take a look here. So the first question was from Ross. What does your father do? That means, what is his job? So David said, my dad's a pilot. He flies those huge airplanes. So what does he do as a pilot? He flies huge airplanes. Then he said, you know, the ones that can carry about over 500 passengers? I want you to take a look at the word, you know. So what is the meaning of you know? What is it going to indicate? So, and here, David said, yeah, I want to be a pilot just like my dad. Yeah. What does that mean? So, and then Ross said that his father is a writer. He writes for a sports magazine. That's his job. He's a writer. That's the job. What does he do? he writes for a sports magazine. Now let's take a look at this question. Do you want to be a writer too? Do you want to be a writer too? From the conversation, we heard the pronunciation of do you want to be a writer too? So in the conversation, we didn't hear do you want to? This is how we pronounce want and to. Do you want to be? Then he said, no, I want to be a chemistry teacher. A chemistry teacher. Why? I love doing experiments and I like teaching kids. Now, let's take a look at these two words here. Let's answer this question first. Choose an ending for the conversation, or you can make your own. So these are possible endings that you can choose, or here you have a space to think about an ending if you want. It could be, yeah, teaching is an interesting job. Or those students can make you proud. Or the good side is that you get lots of vacations. Or you can make up your own. Well, how about if we say, why didn't you think of another job? Do you want to be a doctor? Did you think about something else? What do you like to do? These are possible endings for this conversation. Now, let's take a look at the words here. You know. So what is the meaning of you know? In the conversation, we heard one of the boys saying that my dad's a pilot. He flies huge airplanes. You know, the ones that can carry over some 100 peoples. Let's take a look. What is the meaning of you know here in the context? You know is an expression used to explain something you just said. Like what? Look here. You said you know in the conversation. We heard that you know in the conversation, and after that, the boy explained what is exactly those airplanes, the huge airplanes. Let's take a look. So, what does he explain after he said that? So, first, who said that? David, the one whose father is a pilot. So then what did he say after that? He means when he say huge airplane, you know, the ones that can carry over 500 passengers. This is the explanation of huge airplanes. Now, what about this? Let's have some examples. Let's take a look at this one. He's a flight attendant. You know, someone who helps passengers on the plane. Or let's take a look at this example. My father is a dentist. You know, the doctor who takes care of teeth, or the doctor who treats people's teeth. This is the explanation of the meaning of dentist. Now, what about the other word we underlined in the conversation? The other word is yeah. Yeah. What is the meaning of yeah? Yeah, the meaning of yeah is yes. But who says yeah? David said yeah in the conversation. So, but do people use yeah when they speak? Yeah, we use yeah when we speak. Okay, so how about when we write? When we write, are we going to write yeah with this spelling? Y-E-A-H? No. When we write something, we will write it like this. Y-E-S. We're not going to write yeah. But when we speak in the conversation, we can use the word yeah. Let's have some examples here. Like, is Lulu here today? Yeah, I'm here. But if it's a conversation or it's something written, Lulu must write yes, Y-E-S, not yeah, but only in speaking. Let's take a look at this. Do you have your book with you? Yeah, I have my book with me. Or this one. Are you listening to me? Yeah, we are listening to you. Now, let's take a look here. What does David's father do? from the conversation. So we had the boys David and Ross. One of them, his father is a pilot, and the other one, his father is a writer. So what does David's father do? He's a pilot. He flies airplanes. Look at the word flies. Do you remember in the grammar lesson when we talked about the present simple? He flies airplanes. Now, what does David want to be when he grows up? He wants to be like his father. He wants. We added S to the word want. He wants. Now let's take a look at Ross. What does Ross's dad do? He's a writer. He writes for a sports magazine. He writes. What does Ross want to be when he grows up? What does Ross want to be and why? Ross, he wants to be a chemistry teacher. He doesn't want to be like his father, a writer. He wants to be a chemistry teacher. And the reason for that, because he likes teaching kids and he likes doing experiments too. Now, let's take a look. Choose yes or no for these questions. Let's take a look at the first one. Is David's father a doctor? No, David's father is not a doctor. He's a pilot. Let's take a look at the next question. Is Ross's father a writer? Yes, he's a writer. He writes for a sports magazine. Now, next. Does Ross want to be a writer? No, he doesn't want to be a writer. He wants to be a chemistry teacher. Does Ross love doing experiments? Yes, he loved doing experiments. Maybe that's why he wanted to be a chemistry teacher. Now, let's take a look. It's your turn. I want you to discuss in a group these things. Where do the members of your family work? And what do they do? And what do they think about their jobs? Do they like it? They don't like it? And how are they describing their jobs? For me, let's take a look. Where do the members of your family work? My father is a policeman. He likes his job. He thinks it's an exciting job. Now, what about you? Think about it. I have this audio of a girl, and let's listen to her answer about this. She discussed it with her friend. Let's take a look.
Hi, Rima.
Hi, Maram.
Where do the members of your family work?
My dad is a doctor and my mother is a teacher.
What do they do?
My father treats children in the hospital and my mom teaches English.
What do they think about their jobs?
They think their jobs are exciting and fun.
Did you hear the jobs in the conversation between Rima and Maram? Her father is a doctor and her mother is a teacher. And so what do? Her father treats children in the hospital and her mother teaches children. So what do they think about their jobs? They think it's exciting and fun. Now, I want you to do the same. Try to answer this question and discuss it with your friend. Now, let's take a look here. What do you think are interesting jobs and what's interesting about them? And the next question, what do you think are bad jobs and what's bad about them? So I have a chart here for you. I want you to write interesting jobs, write the title of the job and the reason. Why do you think it's interesting? And the bad job, write it here. And why do you think it's a bad job? Do you remember previously when we talked about those people who worked in different jobs and we saw their business cards? One of them was a graphic designer. He didn't like his job. He thought it's a bad job. Why? Because of the deadlines and the hard work he's putting in the job. That's why he thinks it's a bad job. What about the nurse Judy? She liked her job. She thought it's an interesting job and she liked it, but she was still improving herself. Now, I want you to do the same and tell me about what do you think are interesting jobs and what are bad jobs. Now, let's take a look. We want to complete this conversation, and this is a conversation between 3 boys, and let's take a look here. So, Jason, Bill, and Eric. Jason, do you know about the career exhibit? It's tomorrow. Bill, yes, I do. I'm going at 10 o'clock. When are you going? Jason, I'm going at 11:30. Eric, what do you want to be, Jason? Jason, a graphic designer. What could be a suitable word for this space? I want to be a graphic designer. I want to be a graphic designer. Bill, where does a graphic designer work? Jason, well, for example, a graphic designer, something in an advertising firm. What could be a suitable word for this space? Works. Well, for example, a graphic designer works in an advertising firm. Now, I want you to try to complete the rest of the conversation in this page 100 in the workbook. Try to do it yourself, and we will get back to it later. So, what did we do in today's lesson? So, we found information about jobs from the conversation. Do you remember when we listened to the conversation between David and Ross? So, what do they do, and what are the jobs that they talked about? And we differentiated between good and bad jobs, and we gave reasons. Now, for the homework, what are you going to do? You're going to do this. What do you want to be in the future and why? Write the job and tell the reason. And thank you very much, my dear students. I will see you in the next English lesson.